Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and anthropology and some of the implications that are going to play out for the future of market research. My name is Jason Partridge. I co founded MotiveBase in 2015. We've done a lot of work in the realm of natural language processing, artificial intelligence, and taking the social sciences and applying it to big data using technology. It's how we were able to build the world's first predictive anthropology technology. We started the company back in 2015. We've seen tremendous change take place as far as not only what's possible, but also kind of the potential for the future, given some of the new implementations of artificial intelligence that have just come out over the last year. We were acquired back by Lux Research back in 2022, and it's been an exciting journey seeing anthropology become more of a dominant word that is used in the context of how can we think about insight, how can we think about marketing, how can we think about innovation, and how can we leverage technology in order to better understand what is important to consumers. It's at the core of two books that I co-wrote, the first being Web 2.0, the second being Microcultures, Understanding the Consumer Forces That Will Shape the Future of Business, a book that was a bestseller on Barnes and Noble until we were knocked off the block by Jessica Simpson. So we are in good company. But I'm excited to walk you through some thinking in and around AI and anthropology today. So we're going to kind of look at a variety of different components and different things here. But as we get started, I want you to kind of imagine two rivers that are really kind of merging, two massive bodies of water that are coming together that have flowed separately previously, but now that they're starting to converge, are creating this bigger, more dominant force that's really going to reshape the landscape of market research. These are two distinct streams, both with kind of their different kind of benefits, but both of them have really kind of been top of mind over the last little while. If I go back to 2015 when we first started using anthropology on big data in order to kind of guide clients like General Mills or Target to better understand their consumers, we were quite the outlier. There wasn't a lot of people talking about anthropology at that particular time. What I'm excited to see as I go to different conferences and as I talk to different clients is that the role of social science has increasingly become a key tool in the toolkit as kind of large organizations are really trying to kind of hone and be more agile and effective with their innovation and their insight approaches. On the other side of the equation, I think part of the reason why you've probably clicked on this video or why you're interested in this is because we have seen a tremendous amount of change that has taken place in regards to people being curious about how AI is going to reshape the landscape. It's helping us do things faster. It's helping us rethink how we write. It's helping us rethink about how we problem solve. It's helping us rethink about how we plan a trip to France and build an itinerary as we're kind of sitting on our computer in our basement, whether that be in New York or in Connecticut. And so really, kind of that's what we've got is we've got these two different massive bodies of water. Anthropology being that deep reflective, river that is all about human culture and about understanding. And then AI, kind of, I think about rapids. I think about kind of fast moving waters that are driving kind of, incredibly quick access to data in a way that's never before been possible. But of course, as we all are probably hearing in our organizations, what are the rocks that we need to kind of circumnavigate or be aware of so that we don't end up basically moving too quickly and crashing into something. So as these two forces come together, what does this mean for market research? As somebody that works in a marketing function that's trying to understand how to frame a message, somebody that works in an insight function that's trying to understand kind of the core beliefs and values that are shaping expectation, for that innovation consultant that's really trying to understand kind of what is the why behind what is driving the what. All of these things are going to be impacted by this convergence of artificial intelligence and AI. Now, I think based on my background and kind of the genesis of where I've come from, it's not going to come as a surprise that I think AI is enhancing qualitative research. In essence, what we're seeing is that AI is bringing a speed that is helping us accelerate analysis in a way that's never before been possible. Now, kind of at the same time, uh, we're seeing it combined with an anthropological lens that allows us to take a big data approach to qualitative research. So when we start to kind of think about the ability to not just do something faster, but to maintain some of the tenets of anthropology, some of the core kind of key components that allow us to dig into beliefs, values, to analyze the data in a way similar to what we would do if we were anthropologists sitting around a dining room table listening to a conversation, that is where magic can occur. Because in essence, that's where we can start to unlock predictive insights into culture and to get to places of understanding about consumer behavior that have never before been possible. So, just to make sure that I kind of set the stage here, when I talk about anthropology, I'm talking about the study of meaning. I'm talking about how we use language to attach meaning to a thing or to an idea. And when I talk about the role of AI, I'm talking about mapping and tracking changes in meaning to measure where culture is today and to predict where we believe it is going to be tomorrow. So let's conceptualize that. Like, let's look at that in a little bit more detail. And this is an amazing kind of example that comes directly out of how we built a technology and tried to understand how we could apply anthropology to large data. And in essence, when we talk about measuring meaning and culture, there's a couple things that we need to take into consideration that we need to do. The first is that we need to understand kind of direct connections that consumers are making to something. So I want you to imagine that we're interested in the topic of gut health. We work at kind of a large CPG and we're worried about kind of yogurt sales, or we work for a granola company and we're worried about, kind of the implications of gut health and how that's going to kind of change the landscape ahead. Or we work for a large alcohol company and we're actually trying to better understand, kind of where this, whole movement towards a reduction in alcohol consumption is going to play out. And is gut health something that kind of plays in that facet or function? Now, if we think about kind of this idea, we need a starting point. And so, like, we start with this whole notion of the culture of gut health. What are people directly linking to the culture of gut health? If we look at, kind of a conversation that takes place around a dining room table and somebody starts talking about gut health, what are the words that naturally emerge as they talk about that notion of gut health? This is a great starting point, and oftentimes this is what we get to when we do an interview where we ask a direct question or where we do social media listening analysis that is, kind of directly looking for concrete links between one topic and another. And there's a lot of value in what we see there. But in order for us to now basically take an anthropological lens, we need to go one step further. What we need to do is that we need to go beyond direct associations to get to indirect associations that are made by the consumer. And in this particular instance, going back to that analogy of people talking around a dining room table, we need to look at how people are responding to the topics associated to the topics, or we need to follow the chain of the conversation to look for if there are any nuggets or insights that may be shaping the future of the topic that is critical to our business, aka gut health. So let's play that out. Let's think about what that means. In essence, if we start with the notion of gut health, it may be related to these notions of brain health, but brain health is indirectly associated to things around mood management, and mood management is indirectly associated with happiness. Now, if this happens across one conversation, that's interesting and that's important to what we need to understand. But if that continues to occur across millions of conversation, well, wait a second. Now there may be a cultural movement that's important to our company. Is that meaning that people are more readily associating happiness with gut health? That's what we need to dig into. That's what we need to uncover. That's what we need to understand. We need to go beyond direct associations in order to get to those indirect associations. And in order for us to see that at a volume of data that is incredibly high or big enough to really get excited about, we can't do this manually. This is not something that an individual person can do. This is where artificial intelligence plays such an important role. Because if I'm sitting around a dining room table and I get an insight that says that gut health is more readily being linked to brain health and mood management, which is linked to this idea of if I take care of my gut, I'm going to be happier, I get excited because that's in essence kind of an insight. But if I see that in data across thousands of consumers, now I might start to think that it's a trend. If AI can allow us to look at millions and millions of conversations, to see this at a scale that is undeniable, that's where it's a cultural movement. And that's where an investment as a CPG can yield incredible results, because we've got it shows that it's something that is moving forward in a very positive momentum. So again, just to kind of really kind of think about that, in essence, that's what we're talking about here is that we have a dinner party with 20 million guests. Now, traditional research with the anthropologist is getting us to that kind of place where things are inspirational. Digital anthropology and kind of manually looking at those conversations gets us to a place where it's actionable, but really AI is helping us get to a place where it can be transformational, because it becomes unignorable insight that is pointing us in a direction, because we are constantly seeing consumers indirectly link the same idea to something that's important to our business. And to be honest with you, that's in essence how we're able to tell the truth and identify the truth. Now, part of the job that we have to do is balancing this scale that we now have with the depth and rigor that is critical to understanding and kind of following an anthropological approach. And oftentimes, kind of one of the key questions that present itself is, are we going to lose the nuance in qualitative research that can make it, kind of so insightful for us? There's something about kind of that emotional understanding of the consumer when you're doing an interview, or when you're kind of performing an ethnography. You feel like you're getting a deep understanding of the why behind the what. And so one of the questions is that the more that we automate this process, are we losing the heart? And I think that the good and exciting answer here is that the answer to that question is actually no. And the reason for that is because we're not just kind of looking at the AI as a tool that is able to basically analyze and identify those topics. We need to basically kind of help the AI understand how to follow the same steps and make similar connections to what we often see when an anthropologist is going through that exact same process. We need to get the AI to replicate the expertise of a PhD anthropologist in order to not just understand that consumers are linking these topics or these contexts. We need them to actually understand the underlying cultural contexts that are actually presenting themselves as people are talking about that. And, at the risk of getting into too much detail, one of the key things that we learned early on is that it's not enough just to basically understand that people are making a connection. We need to analyze the language around that conversation in order to look at kind of how those words are being formed together, in order for us to identify and study the language, to start to decode what are the motivations, the attitudes, the values, and the fears that underlie the discourse. And in essence, if we can do that, now what we can start to do is we can make the AI smart enough to follow the breadcrumbs that consumers are leaving for us. They can identify both direct associations as well as indirect associations. They can see if those indirect associations are repeating again and again and again and again. And they can look at all the language that is being used around a particular topic in order to start to help us to emotionally and empathetically understand what are the motivations, the attitudes, the values, and fears that are really kind of shaping that engagement. So if the AI is looking at kind of increasing kind of linkage between those topics as a what that we need to pay attention to, analyzing the language helps us understand why that language is basically being formed and why that topic is important to the people that are choosing to engage around it. Now we've got the what and the why, and this is where we're starting to kind of maintain that deep understanding to kind of what we're seeing in place. So as you can imagine, this is incredibly exciting as we start to see anthropology and AI technology kind of come together in a really, really powerful way. And this is large in part to kind of, the excitement that we've seen over the last few years, where we've started to see kind of large companies really start to rethink how they're approaching kind of their research, especially their qualitative research. In a lot of instances, kind of this has been incredibly powerful in speeding up the innovation process. It's allowed our clients to be more agile and iterative in their research, especially in the context of, if you think about, the design thinking kind of methodology and, the desire to really do exploratory research early on in the process. In a lot of instances, kind of the budget limitations or timing limitations make that really difficult to do. But in this particular instance, when we are able to marry anthropology and AI technology together, we're able to get to deep insight in a fast, effective, and more important, in a way that allows us to predict is something growing in importance and growing in culture. And really, at the end of the day, this is a pivotal moment for qualitative research, because what it's doing is it's helping us humanize data. It's like we all know that data is the future. We know the power of big data, but the more we can help to understand how that data is relevant in a human-centric way to consumers, in order to get the story of what it's actually telling us, that is where the kind of the magic truly lies. So, as we look at the kind of the future, the ability for us to apply anthropology to AI is really going to help us to go beyond the rational statistical insights that are often kind of presented to us when we think about big data. And it's allowing us to go deeper to get to the emotional and psychological drivers of what's really kind of shaping that rise in that data that we're seeing. And of course, applying AI to anthropology is powerful as well, because in essence, what it's doing is it's forcing us to abandon our own bias as a researcher. I'm not basing an insight based on one conversation that I hear around a dining room table. I'm basing it on a dining room table with 20 million consumers. I'm seeing that linkage repeat itself over and over and over again, to the fact that it's unignorable. It allows me to recognize dominant ideas that may not match what I expect, but that present themselves in a way that I need to basically kind of dig into them, because they're being shown to me based on the breadcrumbs that consumers are leaving for us time and time and time again. And that, in essence, is what is allowing us to really kind of predict culture. It's allowing us to look at kind of a topic today. It's able to present us with a mind map of the topics that are relevant to a particular consumer. It allows me to understand the emotional values, attitudes, and fears that are shaping engagement. And it allows me to track it over time in order to basically kind of see if the growth that we are predicting based on kind of the vast history of data that we have over the last 5 years is telling us that these cultures are coming together, colliding, and becoming more important to the consumer. And that is so helpful in helping us basically kind of time a new campaign going to market, or a innovation initiative, or to basically identify that maybe something isn't as culturally relevant as we thought it was, and that maybe we need to wait. That, in essence, is the power of anthropology and AI coming together in that particular form. So, in closing, AI means we can analyze millions of people. It means that we can read through billions of conversations, and it means that we can map and measure the changes over time of trillions and trillions of associations. That is kind of a tremendous, powerful kind of river that is merging as it combines and it continues to link itself to the social sciences and the power of anthropology. And as those two forces come together, we have an opportunity now to kind of embrace this fusion and to equip ourselves to meet kind of the challenges of an ever-changing world. Because it is the only way for us to ensure, from a research standpoint, that we will remain deeply connected to the human experience. Because in essence, what it's doing is it's allowing us to maintain and hold on to the emotional components that we get from anthropology, but allowing and forcing us to go beyond our own biases, to use big data in order to identify kind of cultural shifts that are truly unignorable. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. And, I appreciate everybody listening today, and really appreciated the opportunity to present this.